What is going on, guys? We are back with deck profiles, and the first one that we're doing for OP4 is none other than Katakuri, right? As you know, I am a big fan of Katakuri. I've been playing Katakuri for all OP3, and of course I had to do a deck profile for OP4. So before we get started, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more deck profiles like this. I already have two or three other deck profiles lined up. So make sure to subscribe if you want to see those, and leave a like if you are enjoying these deck profiles, and let me know in the comments below which leader are you playing for OP4. Alright, so without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so here we have Katakuri. So, just for a reminder for everybody that did not play in OP3. So, Katakuri is a yellow leader with 5000 attack, strike attribute, and the effect is as follows. With one down that you attach, when you attack, you can look at one card from the top of your or your opponent's life area and put it either at the top or at the bottom. Then, this leader gains 1000. So for one down, you attack for 7, which is extremely good. And just the fact that you get to control what you have in your life or what your opponent has in your life gives you a little bit of an edge. And also something that we have to note is that the ability is look at up to 1, right? So that means that you don't have to have a life, or your opponent doesn't have a life, to be able to activate the plus 1000 power ability. So yeah, the leader, very fun to play, very luck based for most of the matchups, but I think in OP4 it's gonna get better. Alright, so next we have our searchers. Searchers are the same cards that we had access to in OP3. So we have Pudding, which cost 1 for 2000 attack with some attribute, and you have 1k counter. So on play, you look at the top 4 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 Big Mom Parrot type card other than Pudding, or up to 1 Sanji, and you add it to your hand. Then you put the rest at the bottom. So this, like a no-brainer. Like you put 4 of Pudding because she is essential. And in OP3, you had access to a lot of Big Mom. So it was very difficult to miss a search with Pudding. Unfortunately for us, in OP4, we get additional cards that are not Big Mom Pirates, so it becomes a little bit harder to be successful with the search. But the majority of the cards that we have are Big Mom, so it should not be a problem. Then the next searcher is Perospero. For 3 cost, 5000 attack, special attribute. This one does not get a counter, but it's already a very good card. So on KO, you look at the top 3 cards of your deck and you reveal up to 1 Big Mom Pirate type card and add it to your hand. Then you put the rest at the bottom. So similar to what Pudding does, but this time is only the top 3. And like I said, we have a lot of, we have additional cards that are not Big Mom Pirates, so it becomes a little bit more difficult to get a good card, but nonetheless essential. And we are lucky enough that it has a trigger, but the trigger, I'll get to that later on. Alright, so here we have our triggers. Triggers are the essence of the yellow decks, right? Like that's what makes yellow so good, is if you get the trigger these effect, you gain the momentum of the game. Now, as I say that, I know what you're gonna say. This is very luck based, but that's why I said at the beginning, yellow is very luck oriented, but still powerful nonetheless. So here we have a the majority of our triggers are triggers that we had since OP3, but we have some additional triggers that we got from the new starter deck of Yamato and in an OP4. So I'll make a quick rundown of our triggers. So first we have the Perospero that we already saw earlier in the video. So the trigger for Perospero is when you trigger this character, you may discard one card from your hand and then you play this card. So this is very good. Like that's one of the reasons why it's okay that the Perospero doesn't have a counter, because most of the times you just want to drop the Perospero, and it's even better when you drop Perospero from the trigger, right? Discarding one card to play a character is very, very good. The next one is Brulee, one of our blockers. So 3 cost for 1000 attack, special attribute, 1k counter, blocker. When you trigger this, you play this card. And then like you don't want to hard play her, but you will in whenever you really need to play her. But if you get her off a trigger, very, very good. Now the next one is Cracker. OP3 character. For 4 cost, 5000 attack, slash attribute, 1000 attack. For 1 down, while you have less life than your opponent, this card gains double attack and gains an additional 1000 power. So this is very good because a lot of people forget, but the plus 1000 attack stays during your opponent's turn as long as you have less life than him. And like it's very good because a lot of people forget and they just swing for 5, but they have to remember that like he stays at 6000. So very, very good. And the double attack is very, very good when you are when you're losing the game and then you drop him off of a trigger and then you get to attack a double attack. He has to like discard like at least 2-3 cards to make sure that the double attack doesn't hit, or he takes it. Now yes, there is advantage of taking a lot of life because you're gaining cards in your hand that you can later on play or counter, but at the same time it gives you a little bit of momentum in the game. So it's still a very, very good card. And obviously the trigger, when you discard one, like when you trigger this character, you discard one card to play it. Very good. Now the next one we have Shirahoshi. Shirahoshi is a card that I was I'm not gonna say against this card, but this card is literally the definition of like if you're lucky, you're lucky. If you're not, you get stuck with this card in your hand, right? So for 5 cost, 0 attack, wisdom attribute, for 1k counter, on play effect, you draw 3 cards and then you trash 2 cards. The effect, it's amazing. The 5 cost is not amazing. That's why there's a trigger. The trigger is you play this card. So if you get her off of your life, it's an amazing card, right? For free, you get the, like, well, not for free, like when you take 1 life, you get to play her and then you draw 3 cards and then you trash 2 cards. So you're gaining 1 card and you get to recycle your hand. So very, very good. And after that, you can combo her with Katakuri to do it multiple times. So it's a very good effect. But if you're stuck with her in your hand, in your starting hand, like if you have 2-3, like it becomes a dead card. But like not totally a dead card, at least it's a counter. And if you're really, really stuck, you can always hard play her, but then like you're wasting like 5 cards just to shuffle your hand, and then you don't have a body that you can swing with. So it's not the best if you have to play her from your hand. But yeah, still very good off trigger. The next one is Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is one that we had since OP3, and it's an amazing, amazing event. So the main event, the main ability for 2 cost is you may trash 1 card from the top of your life, and then you KO up to one of your opponent's character with a cost of 5 or less. So this is very, very good when you're trying to end games. And what's better is the trigger, because if you trigger this this event, sorry, you get to KO a 5 or less for free. You don't have to pay life, you just get to KO a 5 or less. But that's very good for annoying blockers that are unkillable, like Borsolino, or even regular blockers, or the red Marco, the 4-cost Marco. You trigger that, you target the Marco, and then he has to discard 1 card, but it comes back rested, and then for your turn, no more blockers. So it's very good if you see the Thunderbolt with your ability. Alright, so now we have new triggers, new cards from the starter deck of Yamato and from OP4. So the first one is Capone. Capone is a 3-cost, 3000 attack, ranged attribute, and then with 2000 counter. Very, very good. And then the trigger is up to one of your opponent's leader or character cannot attack during this turn. So very, very, very good. Obviously, you want him in your life. So if you see him in your life, you keep him like either at the end, because you don't want your opponent to attack to finish you off, or you keep it early on so that you have an extra body or something. But yeah. Okay, so the next one is Sanji. So we get a new Sanji from OP4 with 4-cost, 5000 attack, strike attribute with 1k counter, and he's simply a blocker. So the trigger, when you trash 1 card, you can play this card. So this is very good, even if you have to hard play him, right? Like, as you know, like yellow has a lot of 4-cost character, and I think even if you draw him in your hand, this one is one of the better ones, because at least it's a blocker, but at the same time could be a body that you can swing with. So very good. And then the last trigger is the Narikabura arrow. So this is an event that came out in the Yamato starter deck, and has a it has the same trigger as Sovereignty, but the counter ability is different, and in my opinion a little bit better for the cost. So for 1 cost, if you have 2 or less cards in your life area, give up to one of your opponent's leader or character minus 3000. So 3000 is often a good number, because they're often gonna attack you for 7k. So the 3000 drops your opponent's character or leader to that 4000 that becomes useless. And the trigger is you may trash 2 cards from your hand, and then you may place up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life area. So at the end of the game, like if he's going for game and this card happens to be in your life, you get an extra life. Or if you get that early on in the game, you keep that card in your hand, so that once you reach 2 or less, you get an extremely good counter. So yeah, that's for the triggers. Alright, the next one is the vanillas of the deck. So the vanillas of the deck that we have, and we got new ones, and in my opinions, better ones. So now we have a 5-cost, 7k slash attribute with Randolph. So the first one that we got was in the starter deck of Yamato, but that was a Land of Wano Yamato, right? But now we get a searchable one. So with 1k counter, the Big Mom Pirate. So this is extremely good, because it's very hard to get rid of, right? So if Red wants to do any shenanigans with Fire Fist or with Marcos, they're gonna have to reduce one by a lot. So yes, it's 7,000. So yes, Gordon can reduce it to 4,000, or Otama can reduce it to 5. But since we have these 2 big bodies, they're gonna have to use multiple ones, right? So by reducing 1, they can't kill 2 characters, right? Because you're gonna have the Randolph here, but then most of your cards are 5k already. So I feel like it hits a good sweet spot. And the new Perospero, it's even better than Randolph, right? For 6 cards, 8000 attack, special attribute, 1k counter, that 8000 power is very good and very hard to deal with. Unless you're playing with Jet Pistol. So, but with Jet Pistol, you can only kill 1 character. So that means that your other cards are safe. Or unless you play against Ace with the Fire Fist, then that's pretty much unstoppable, right? So yeah, so that's it for the vanillas. And yeah, I think it's very good. Like at the beginning, I always had a hard time playing with vanillas, but I've learned to love them. And I think these 2 cards are essential for the yellow deck. Alright, now we have our blockers that we already seen with the triggers. So we have Brulee as our blocker and Sanji as our blockers. So we have, as yellow, we have access to 2k, to 2 cost 2k blockers, but I think we don't need them, right? Especially with the new Sanji that we have and Brulee, we are very comfortable of running just these 2 blockers, because one, Brulee, mainly a blocker. If you get to play her off a trigger, very good, you play her for free. And then Sanji can be a blocker and can also be a big body that you swing with, right? With 5000 attack, it's very good. So yeah, that's it for the blockers. Alright, so here we have the 2k counters. So as you know, yellow has often played with 12 2k counters. But this time with OP4, we actually have good 2k counters. Yes, the Sanji from OP3 was decent, was playable, but it didn't often survive, right? Because it's only a 2 cost for 3, but then after that you might swing for one time, so you get to draw 1. Yes, there is value, I agree, but I feel like it was a bit lacking. And yeah, but now we have Streusen, that is from OP3, which was the better counter in my opinion in OP3. That for 1 cost for 1k slash and then 2k counter. On play, you may trash a trigger from your hand and KO up to one of your opponent's character with a cost of 1 or less. So this card was very useful against red and against law, right? Because they spam the board with 1 cost characters. So you use Streusen to reduce their board, to slow them down, especially law. Like once he has a full board, he's pretty much unstoppable. But Streusen comes in clutch to reduce his board, slow his momentum, and avoid him to make his combos. And the new one, as we saw previously, is the Capone. So Capone, 3 cost, 3000 attack, ranged, 2k counter, amazing trigger. So just like, yes, his base stats are not good, but just the fact that you can have that trigger is very good and makes it a lot better than the other 2k counters. And then another new one that we have is Charlotte Amande. So for 3 cost, 3000 attack slash 2k counter, activate main once per turn. You may trash a card with a trigger from your hand, then rest up to one of your opponent's character with the cost of 2 or less. So this is also very good. I haven't had the chance to actually play her. I've only used her as a 2k counter, but I'm pretty sure that this ability can be very helpful, especially if the meta stays with red and law. So you can have a little bit more flexibility into clearing their board So because resting a 2 or less, you can rest the blocker, or you can rest all their searchers that are 1 cost. So that's very, very good. And yeah, that's it for the 2k counters. Alright, so here we are at the end game. The end game is pretty much the same as OP3. Unfortunately, OP4 did not bring a lot of new big bodies or new characters that you can use late game. So we are sticking with the same 3. Alright, so the first one is the 7 cost Big Mom. 7 cost for 8000 attack, special attribute, on play effect. Your opponent chooses one of the following effects. Trash 1 life card from the top card of your opponent's life, or you put 1 card from the top of your deck on top of your life area. So it's either he loses a life or you gain 1 life. And more often than not, they're gonna decide to trash 1 life, because they don't want to give you extra lives so that you just start scaling up and going all the way back to 5 life, right? And yes, she is worse than the 10 cost, right? Because at some point, even if your opponent has 0 life, he can decide to trash a life, right? So even if he doesn't have one, he gets to choose that effect. So you really have to time her very well to take full of that advantage of the ability. The next one is the 8 cost Katakuri. 8 cost Katakuri for 8000 power, strike attribute. On play effect, put up to 1 character with the cost of 8 or less on the top or bottom of its owner life area face up. So this card extremely good and can be used either on your opponent's characters or your own characters. So this is where I was saying that Shirahoshi could be used multiple times with the 8 cost Katakuri. So we've seen that in OP3 and it's still true in OP4. So I still think the combo will be very good. Or you can also use Brulee to get an extra life and then an extra blocker again. And yeah, or obviously you can remove one of your opponent's character that is very annoying, right? Could be a blocker, could be a big body or anything. So yeah. And the last one and the most important one of the deck is the 10 cost Big Mom. So 10 cost with 12,000 attack, special attribute, and on play effect. If your leader has the Big Mom pirate type, place up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life area. Then trash up to 1 card from the top of your opponent's life area. So don't really have to explain why this is good. Get a free life on play, and you get the purple Kato ability, right? The purple Kato ability, if we remember, you remove 7 Dons back to the Don deck and you trash one of your opponent's life. But now you get to do it with a character, and not just any character, it's a 12,000 power character. So already there, amazing. And it's even stronger if you get to play another 10 cost the following turn. And a lot of the times it does actually happen, and it is very good. And yeah, so these are your big body endgame characters. Alright, so here we have the events. We already saw them during the triggers, but just for recap, these are the only 2 events that we play. And the first one is the counter. So minus 3000, it's a very good number, and the trigger to be able to increase your life area by discarding 2 cards, very good. And the Thunderbolt for 2 cost, destroy a 5 cost by trashing 1 card from your life area, or the trigger, KO any of your opponent's characters with the cost of 5 or less, even the annoying Borsolino. Alright, so that's it for the events. Only these two. I think these are the better ones, but there are a lot more options out there, so you to play whatever you're comfortable with. And yeah, that's it for the deck profile. Here is the full list with the number of copies of each characters and each event that I play. And yeah, this is the list that I've been testing. It's been working very well for me. But make sure to just use this list as a reference. You know, everybody has their own playstyle, and this is the one that I found more comfortable towards the way that I play. So yeah, thank you for watching, and make sure to subscribe if you want to see more deck profiles like this. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. I try to make this format a little bit different than the previous ones, but of course once I get my hands on the OP4 cards, I'll be doing live deck profiles with the actual cards. And let me know in the comments below, which are the cards that I've missed that are coming out in OP4 that you would add to the deck, or if there's a card in OP3 that is still very good that I just removed for a new card. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.